Everyone has a good story to tell, and you know it is a good story when the person leans in and says, "See, what had happened was," and then tells the story.
This podcast provides those opportunities to tell those types of stories in education. The stories will be from the good, the bad, and everything in between. We wanted to do this podcast to showcase stories in education and to give flowers to educators who deserve recognition for their excellence.
Our guests will feature parents, students, teachers, administrators, and just about anyone who is involved in education. These stories will inspire you, challenge you, and help you to reflect on your practice of education, whether it be from the inside of the classroom or outside.
If you have a good story to tell, we'd love to hear it. Email us at contact@andredoughty.org. We'd love to have you or your story on a future episode. See What Had Happened starts now.
Welcome to another episode of See What Had Happened. We're your co-hosts, Danielle and Andre Daughty. We are so glad that you're hanging out with us today.
Hey, and sprout out to all of you friends who have followed us since day one. Hey, and if you're just now joining us, remember you can follow us on all podcast platforms. If you are watching this on our YouTube channel, sprout out to YouTube as well.
Sprout out. Today's episode is all about the questions. We truly appreciate you all contacting us at contact@andredoughty.org and asking questions. And so today's episode, we're just going to run through some of the questions. Are you ready?
I don't know, but let's go.
Okay, here we go. Very first question. And of course, anytime a question is asked, we'll make sure everything is anonymous. We'll keep everything on the low, so no one gets offended or nervous or scared or anything like that. This is a safe, brave place.
This is a safe place.
Yes. All right, here we go. The first question for you. What does a typical weekend look like for you as a teacher?
These days, I have a lot of freedom. I've decided, hey, listen, I'm not bringing any work home. The most that I do is schedule the Canvas lessons to go live for Monday on the weekend. It's really nice. But in the beginning, oh my goodness, I would spend, I'm going to say at least 80% of my weekend doing something school related. I've been delivered though.
Delivered. I think that's typical. I'm thinking about the years when I was in the classroom, especially those KIP years, and having 2.5 hours of homework every night the students would do. And then you come home and you're just literally doing homework and recording and grading homework. I remember bringing home those milk crates. Remember those milk crate days?
I do.
Had milk crates coming home with students' work and students' journals and students' anything because they were easy to grab and you could just stack them and pack them and grade. You said about 80%. That's about right. Doing that. Yeah. And shout out to those who have learned to leave the work at home. Leave the work at school. And shout out to those who are still working on that journey.
Yes.
You know, both ways do work well as long as you have some self-care in the midst of it and it's not 100% of your time.
Hey, listen, if you are a first year teacher or let's say you're in between years 1 and 3, here's my advice to you. You are going to bring home a lot of work in the beginning. However, this is all about sharing what has worked well. What I learned is from this guy here is to designate one specific day that you are going to stay late during the week.
Yeah.
And you're going to get everything done. And then by the time your weekend comes, you will have more time to do what you want to do on the weekends.
Yeah. Our first time, I think it was Tuesdays. And then it turned into Wednesdays, and then it was Thursdays, where you just stay late after school. You're one of the very last people there left on campus, just you and the custodian team. And you just stay and you try to knock out as much as you can. What were some of the things that you normally typically do on those stay late days?
I would plan centers, grade, make copies, all the things. Just get it done.
Yeah, same way here. Lots of prepping When you're doing middle school and you have 6 or 7 different rotations or classes, lots of that prep work, finding the right materials, the right resources, the right everything. And then, of course, lesson plans, and then sometimes grading. Most times the grading came home, but the prep work, that really does help. And then, of course, most teachers try to get to school early anyway to prep for that day as well.
True.
So that really does help.
And then shout out to my district because this year we actually had one day in the middle of the week with no children. And my goodness, the amount of work that you can get finished when there are no students in the building.
A 4-day work week really does work well.
It really does.
I hope that some districts continue that, especially on that Wednesday, because that Wednesday was like a nice pick-me-up, where you could recover from that Monday, Tuesday, and then you could prep to finish strong with the the Thursday, Friday. Yeah. Great question to you. Thanks a lot for asking that question. Here's the next one. Describe what a good day at school would look like. What does a good day at school look like?
A snow day?
A non-COVID, non-work at home snow day. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. A good school day for me would be like those days where the students would come inside the classroom and like they would give you that positive energy, and you knew like, oh, today's gonna be a good day. And they go right inside of the classroom and they start handling business, whether it is bell work, do nows, whether it is that morning work, whatever that routine in the morning was. You like, oh, I could feel this, like, oh, or they're all leaning in on the discussion or the lesson, and you're like, I am teaching my butt off today.
Yes.
That is like one of the cool days. Or at the end of the day, where one of the student, comes to you or slides a note to you and says, thank you for teaching me. I didn't get that and I've been trying to solve for whatever, but today you helped me finally really understand it. And that's a good day right there.
Okay. I'm going to piggyback off of you a little bit. Okay. At the beginning of 2nd grade, I have very few super strong readers. But I like to have directions on the board for what they're supposed to do, because they thrive in routine, right? So at the beginning of the school year, I'm like, oh, I can't do that because many of the students can't read and blah blah blah. But now by the end of the school year, they come in, I'll say, come inside, follow all the directions on the smart board. They can read all the directions, and if it's somebody who cannot read, they will tell the directions. And they will say it in my voice. So I know that they are modeling me.
Yes.
They are channeling Mrs. Bell. So, or, they'll get on. This happened last week, actually. Okay. One of the students, like on the board, I said, use colored pencil to find the words in your word search for morning work. And so one of the students was using a regular pencil. And so the correcting student said, now you know that says to use a colored pencil. Mrs. Daughty is not pleased when you don't follow directions. I'm sitting over there like I'm not paying attention. I'm at the door like,
yes, but you also ear hustling,
Yes.
The ear hustle was strong right
I'm
there.
like, oh, they really pay attention.
I love when students do that, when they say, man, you know good and well that Mr. Doughty ain't going to allow that type of work. You didn't give it your best effort or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pre-K work.
Yeah.
That's pre-K work. You're almost in 3rd grade. Man, just preach.
Yeah.
Preach. So
that's when you know that today was a good day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great question to you all there. Thank you for that one. Another one. Here we go. Favorite cafeteria food? Now, for our listeners and our audience out there, we are vegetarians. We have been strong in the vegetarian game for 5 years now. So this is going to hit a little different now. But back then, what would you say?
I've never really eaten in the cafeteria consistently.
Really?
However, I do recall a couple of years ago during, I think it was Thanksgiving, I took the kids to the cafeteria and some sweet goodness caught my nose. And I went in there and I said to the cafeteria manager, I said, "What is that delightful smell?" She's like, "Oh, Mrs. Daughty, I made an apple crisp." Let me go ahead.
Yeah. Get a little bit of that.
Yeah. I said, "I'll go back to my room and get some money." And she's like, "Oh no, Mrs. Daughty, it's no charge." What?
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
See, that's how you hustle in the school. There are only a few people that you must really get to know and be really nice to, because they always hook you up later. The custodians,
True.
the office managers, cafeteria staff.
So true.
And so I remember in the classroom, our classes were always long, and those lines would always be long. And, you have a strict time for eating lunch in a specific range. So I would put on gloves and I'd be back there helping them, like, let me help you with the food. Like, I'm already on duty anyway. This gives me a chance. So I put the gloves on, put the apron on, and I'd count out how many nuggets they would get or whatever, and just, really help them. By doing that, they would always hook a brother up with some food. And so most days I decline it, I respectfully decline it. But the one day I would not, chicken nuggets, mashed potatoes, gravy, and the rolls. The rolls were it. Then you put the little chicken nugget in the roll, and then you dip it in the mashed
You have gone to your foodie place, huh?
They would come back with to-go boxes of all of the leftover, because you got to throw it away. And so they would just make sure, let's make sure we give Mr. Daughty a plate. And I'd get that plate, and man, so I can tell you right now, that was the easiest favorite meal. And then, like you said, there would be some times where you knew that the cooks were really cooking, and they would whip up their own recipes from whatever. Oh, that'd be some good eating right there too. Another terrific question. Now that one's got me a little hungry.
I couldn't even tell. When you went to describe it, put the nugget in the bread.
Yeah, you got to dip it. It's almost like
goodness.
a Chick-fil-A sandwich biscuit now. Like, yeah.
Okay.
That's some good eating right there.
Okay.
Okay, here's another question. What is the differences that you see in students when they are learning in the morning versus learning in the afternoon?
Okay. So this really depends on your special schedule. Now, mine has changed every year. And like last school year in particular, I noticed that my students learned math better in the morning versus the afternoon.
Okay.
This year, this has been a little bit challenging, as we all know. So just them even having a schedule has been good for them.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. The students this year, it doesn't matter when we do each topic. Now, I have one student, she will definitely hold my feet to the fire if I stray away from the schedule that's posted on the board.
Okay.
So she's like, "Oh, Mrs. Daughty, we're supposed to do phonics right now." I'm like, "Okay, well," I said, "we're going to change it a little bit today because, I have to explain and say, we have a little bit more time. So we're going to do this. We'll do our centers first, and then we'll come back and do phonics." And then she'll be like, "Oh, okay." Like, she really holds me accountable.
Inside of your classroom, you have your agenda on the board for the day. Do you also have the time range?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes,
Okay.
I have the time and then what we're doing. So, like, I
can see how they would hold you to fire. It's 9:45, Miss Daughty. We supposed to be on.
Seriously, like now, okay. So the beginning of our schedule, I know this might be too much information, but the beginning of our schedule, I'll have 8:55 students arrive. From 9 to 9:15 is morning work. Then announcements. Then after that, we do morning meeting. Then after morning meeting, we have a brain break. And brain booster is what we call it. And then after the brain booster is when we do phonics, right? So some days, morning meeting will take no time at all. So we might phonics is supposed to be at 9:55. Sometimes we get finished with morning meeting and our brain booster. Let's say 9:35, 9:40.
Okay.
Right? So this particular, my timekeeper, she keeps me in check. While we're doing the brain booster, she says, "Oh, Mrs. Daughty, it looks like we're a little bit ahead of schedule." I said, "You know what? You're right."
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't get mad. I'm like, because first of all, you know how to tell time. So,
Master that skill.
yeah. So, I mean,
And you're doing some self-management because you're keeping me on task as well.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Shout out to the teachers out there who also are doing the agendas, and they're using time to keep your agendas going and flowing throughout the day. Because sometimes those lessons can get ahead of you and get away from you if you know that you were supposed to stop like at a 9:50, but now it is 10:10 and you're still on that same lesson. That time does add up throughout the year.
Yes.
So shout out to all of the teachers. Sprout out to all of the teachers who are holding on to that time.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. For me, the mornings, they came in more focused, but it was about 10 o'clock. So when I taught middle school, that early morning, they were still trying to wake up.
Oh, wow.
Same with elementary. They're just trying to wake up, trying to get ready. About that 9:30, 9:40 range, their energy perked up. You could tell that they were ready to go, ready to rock and roll. At the end of the day, they were done. And so I always made sure like that last 30 minutes of class, whether it be middle school, that 6th hour or that 7th hour, like, okay, guys, I know your brain is tired. We're going to push through with some mini lessons versus me trying to really give you heavy stuff. When I taught middle school, and I bet you it's the same for you this year during the pandemic. When I taught middle school, first hour, I always got my best work and my freshest jokes. So I taught middle school, first, second, third hour were the same, and then 5th and 6th were the same. And so first hour, they were like the guinea pigs. I'm trying to joke, trying to land it. I'm teaching the lesson, so the lesson was fresh. And they were like, oh, okay. In the second hour, I would perfect that joke. But then third hour, I was trying to add on too much more of it because, you're kind of used to the lesson by now. You're used to the joke or the example or the anecdote or whatever. So third hour, I always got the best time management, but the jokes didn't land as well only because my energy, I was like, I'm saying the same joke for the third time. Now, did that work for you since you were doing A-B schedule? Like, were your B students getting the material better and quicker because you had practiced it with your A students?
It was actually the flip.
Okay.
Because with our AB schedule, when we began a brand new unit or introduced something new, we would start with the B kids. So that would be like a Thursday, Friday. So then you had time to recoup over the weekend and then try it again.
Okay.
So I'm kind of similar.
Yeah. So I wonder about other teachers out there. Share them out with us. When you have multiple classes, which group gets the best of the best? Which group gets when you're tired? I'm just curious. Yeah.
Maybe it was group A then.
Could be.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question.
Okay.
How often do you talk about your students to other teachers, family members, or friends?
Every day.
Yeah.
Listen, if you don't have some good coworkers where you can share the tea or bounce ideas off of them, it's going to be pretty lonely.
It is.
Every day, each of us has a story about something that has happened in our classroom. And we just need to let it go. So
the good, the bad, and the everything in between.
Everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, of course, we do respect the students, especially when it comes to FERPA and other laws not HIPAA. but like
FERPA.
yeah, it is FERPA. Okay, I thought I was right. Especially when it comes to like the FERPA, we don't just go out there dogging students or nothing like that.
No.
But those times when those students are really challenging, I'm like, man, I'm having a rough time with so and so. Man, who had so and so last year? What can we do to help so and so? Like, can I get so and so's parent on the phone? What do you, things like that.
Yes.
Or even the good ones, the funny ones where the student poops in class. And you just got to share that story. Like, man, let me tell you, we were all silent and quiet. And all of a sudden you heard, just things like that.
Yeah.
You got to have those times to laugh a little throughout your day.
A lot.
Yeah. And then if you have a really good team and squad or staff or coworkers where you can have those comedic moments throughout the day, man, that makes that school so much better for that year.
Yes. Laughter has really gotten us through this school. Laughter and prayer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, I will say that I do share the good, the bad, and everything and in between with this guy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, of course, he's gone through it and he brings me down.
Yeah.
Because sometimes,
We all get to the ledge sometimes.
Ooh-wee.
We all get frustrated a lot of times.
Yes.
And sometimes you just need different perspective. But I think that's just me in general, where if you tell me, okay, here's the story, then I'd be like, yeah, that's a good story, but look at it from the other way.
And I'd be like, man.
I'm like, but what about this parent?
I don't need advice. I just need you to listen.
I'm making up a backstory for this parent I don't even know. And I'm like, well, think about the parent and this perspective. Like, what about Yeah. Last question.
All right.
How do you remember all of your students' names?
Each year?
Do you have trouble remembering your students' names?
I do not.
Okay.
I remember each one of my babies. And then even students from past classes. I don't know. I think about some type of personality trait that they had. And if I'm like, what was their name? And I'll be like, yeah. But yeah, I don't forget names, but
Yeah. I don't forget faces.
right.
But I will forget a name.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's different because you taught middle schoolers. So I think it would be easier for you to forget a name versus a face. Now, me teaching early childhood, I think it's easier for me to remember names because if I see the student later, I'm not going to know who he or she is because they've already, kind of developed.
That is true.
Yeah.
And then I think class size really does matter on that too. Where if you have multiple years of plus 30 students in the classroom, it's going to be tougher to remember some of their names down the line. Versus if you're maybe 20, you can remember it. Like the other day, I ran across some of our class pictures from my class of over 70.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, and I forgot like half of their names.
Oh, I can see half
of their
how you
names.
do that.
But I remember their faces, and now they got to be at least 23, 24. But I was like, I remember
Oh, no, they have to be older than that. They have to be older than that.
Yeah.
At least 30.
Well, no, because Jaden was 3 or 4.
But your class of 70 was before
fourth grade.
Jaden, right?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because you remember you and Jaden Jaden was in pre-K. Miss Buckley.
Oh, I thought it was
Camry
before
was the
Kim.
baby.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, I don't forget a face. I will forget a name.
I don't forget names. I will forget a face.
And I'll be like, hey, buddy. Hey, Tiger, what's up, man?
Or you will, I hate when you do this.
Okay.
You will call that person. You will say that person's name like it. Yeah, you remember when Tim did what? And I'm saying, that boy's name was not Tim.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Yeah, I mean, just nonchalantly just keep on carrying
But
on.
I swear the name was Tim.
You just
his
make
name's
up
not
names.
Tim.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There are a few of them that I do remember, and they're always etched in stone from each class. But then there are some of those ones who are really, really silent, and they literally fell through the cracks, where there wasn't much memorable, there's a word, much memorable about them, or that we didn't have a connection, or there's something there where I don't remember their names, or they don't have a funny story or a goofy, silly story that ties on with them as well.
If you have a story that you would like to share for any future episodes of See What Had Happened, you can contact us at contact@andredowty.org. You can also share any questions in case you don't want to be on camera. Go ahead and contact us. We would love to hear from you.
And we appreciate all the questions that have come through the inbox, and that just filled up this episode today. So thank you all for asking those questions. We truly appreciate it.
All right. If you enjoy the See What Had Happened podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and share. Give us a review on any podcast platform. Your ratings and reviews help our podcast to get more noticeable on podcasting sites. Well, that's the end of this episode.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it. We might do another one with questions.
Absolutely.
All right. Don't forget to join us on the next episode of See What Had Happened. Bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcast.